Hello, my crafting friends. Do you love primitive farmhouse home decor DIYs that are beautiful and budget friendly? Then come craft with me. My name is Sarah, and welcome to my channel, Primroselaneprims. If you haven't done so, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and crafting again with me in the future. And now, let's jump right into these fall DIYs. For today's DIYs, we are going to be doing some upcycling of some Amazon mailers. And for this first one, we're going to use to make a little cute fall garland. And this is just one of those really thick kind of craft paper Amazon mailers. And I'm going to start by opening up the bottom here and cutting the sides so that I can open this up completely. I want to use the inside of this as my front because it's a nice clean space. So I started off just by drawing out the shape of an acorn. Now I will link the one that I drew down in the description box. You could print out and use yourself, or you can draw your own. But I just cut it out and used that as the template for all of my other acorns. And however many you need will depend on the size of garland you want to make. I did 6. So next I just grabbed my Waverly Antique Wax from Walmart, and I'm just going to go over the tops of my acorns here, my little acorn caps and the stem. Just want to darken those up, make that little differentiation between the bottom and the top. And once I have the top little caps done, I'm just going to take and go around the edges as well. I want to darken up these edges, really highlight them just a little bit. And then I'll take whatever's just kind of left on my brush and just kind of lightly dry brush over the rest of the body of my acorn. And that's it. That's all I did to these little acorns. And look how cute they are. And now I'll just do that to all of my acorns. Now I'm going to grab my thicker G twine here. This is from Walmart. And the length of this you're going to need will once again depend on the size garland you want to make. Now to attach my acorns to my garland, I'm just going to grab my little hole punch here and I'm going to pop a little hole right on one side of the acorn stem and then another right on the other side. Get my hole to go through here. It was being a little stubborn. But just like that. So that way I can thread my twine up through. So I'm going to start from the bottom and I'll thread it up through, across, and back down. And it makes it a lot easier to thread these if you would take a little piece of Scotch tape or even masking tape and just put a little bit on the end of your twine. That way it doesn't unravel on you. I didn't do that to start out, and I should have, because my twine, the ends just like to get a little frayed. But then just keep right on going. Attach however many acorns you made. Slide them right onto your twine. And where you position them at first, it's okay because these move around easy so that you can reposition them. Now to go in between my little acorns, I'm going to grab this dark brown cotton fabric here, rip some strips, and this black and cream gingham, and I'm just going to knot these right in between each of my acorns. Look how easy and adorable this turns out. I don't think the pictures actually do this justice. I have it hanging in my foyer and I absolutely love how cozy and rustic this turns out. For this next DIY, I'm going to be using another one of these Amazon mailers, except this is one of the puffy mailers. And I'm going to start by pulling this one apart. This one pulls apart easy. It has the glued sides. And I'm going to flip it around so that all of the writing is on the inside. And you can see the little styrofoam poofs that are on the inside kind of poking out through a part there that I kind of ripped. So that's what makes it the puffy part. So I'm just going to flip that inside out so all the writing is on the inside and cut off that sticky tab at the top. So now I'm going to start tracing out some fall shapes. I'm going to start off with some just little candy corn here. I'm using my little Sharpie marker here just so you can see. The pencil didn't want to show up very well, and I wanted you to be able to see what I was drawing. And I'm not using pattern, just hand sketching these out. These aren't perfect, but they're rustic and primitive, so that just kind of adds to the charm. So I added some candy corn and I want to do some pumpkins here. I'm going to fill this whole mailer up and you're going to see how many of these dough bowl fillers or ornaments, which is what we're making, I didn't tell you, out of one of these Amazon mailers. So on the top row, I have 4 candy corn, 2 pumpkins. On the next row, I drew a couple more pumpkins. And then I decided I was going to do a couple little ghosts as well. So a couple little gumdrop shapes here for my ghosts. And on the bottom row, I did another little ghost. So I have 3 ghosts. Then I decided I want to do some witches' hats. So just a little cone and a little disc at the bottom. And I did 3 of those. So you can see out of one Amazon mailer, you can get quite a few of these little ornaments or double fillers. And then I just cut them out both sides at the same time. So as you can see, all my different shapes here cut out. I'm just going to start with my pumpkins, and to attach these, I'm just going to run a little line of hot glue right around the edges and then just start gluing and pressing these together. And you can see some of the little foam tabs kind of sticking out on the edges. That's okay. When these are all said and done, you will never see those. So I'm just going to keep gluing these around, and I'm going to leave a space at the bottom open though for now because we will be stuffing these. So as you can see, a little spot here at the bottom open so that I could add stuffing here and a little bit. And like I said, those little pieces of those styrofoam tabs that are in the center, don't worry about those. Those will be covered all in the end. You'll never see them. And I'm just going to keep gluing this to all of my different little shapes, leaving the bottom open for stuffing. Now, as you can see here with this little candy corn, these mailers are made of multiple layers. So sometimes when you cut them, they might separate a little bit between the 2 layers. If that happens, when you're gluing, just add a little dab of hot glue right down in there, press those together, seals them right back up. I had to go around and do that with a few of them. Not all of mine did that, just depending, I guess, on where you cut them in between those little styrofoam dots that are in the center. But if it does, it's no big deal. Easy, simple fix. Just little line of hot glue fixes them. And here are all of my different little shapes now that I have glued them all together, and I want to add my stuffing. Now, since we're upcycling, I'm grabbing some of these plastic shopping bags. I know plastic shopping bags are not available in all areas. Some states actually have outlawed in some countries. So if not, you could use packing paper or even newspaper, or just grab some polyfill stuffing. That works too. Just stuff those up, and once you get them stuffed with whatever you want to stuff them with, add another line of hot glue right down that bottom and seal them up the rest of the way. This just gives them a little extra dimension between that puffy mailer and the stuffing on the inside. Now, when you stuff these, you might see a little better where some of your paper has come apart where you cut it. And if that's the case, it's a great time to glue it right here. And all of mine are stuffed and glued, and here is what they all look like. You can see you get quite a few out of one mailer. So now let's start decorating these a little bit. And I'm going to start with my candy corn, and I'm just going to trace out with a pencil roughly where I want my different colors to go. So I'm going to start off with the top with my Waverly chalk paint and the color Snow White. And I'm going to give these one coat of this white on the top part of my candy corn. I'm going to get the top, and I want to be sure to get in those side grooves real good. As you're doing these, they start to look like little snow-capped mountains at first instead of candy corn. And I'm going to paint these kind of as I'm using one color. I'm going to be painting more than one. I'm going to try to keep if I have one color out, do all of my different projects that need that color. So as my tops of my candy corn are drying here before I do the back, I'm going ahead and grab my little ghosts, and I'm going to give them a coat of the white as well. Now, once my candy corn are dried, I'm just going to flip these over and do the back sides as well. I want these completely covered. I don't want anybody to ever know these were originally an Amazon mailer. So kind of hold it to the side, make sure I get my 2 sides roughly the same. They don't have to be perfect, but general. So now once those are dry, I'm going to go in with my Waverly chalk paint and the color pumpkin, and I'm going to do this second section of my little candy corn. And since, of course, I want my pumpkins to also be orange, I'm going to go ahead and give those a coat as well while I've got my orange out. And if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to drop down and hit that like button. If you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting subscribe. It's completely free. And also, there is a little button called Hype. It's on your mobile devices. It's just another free way to support creators like myself. And if you enjoyed the video, hit that button. YouTube will know to share it with more friends that have maybe not seen my channel yet. Now for the bottom part of my candy corn, I'm going to grab my chalk paint, Waverly chalk paint in the color Maze, and I'm just going to go down and along this bottom and give them that last section of my candy corn a coat of this Maze chalk paint. And while it's drying, I'm going to go back over to my pumpkins and I'm going to grab my burnt umber apple barrel paint from Walmart here, and I'm just going to give these stems of my pumpkin a coat of that. Do the fronts, backs, and sides. And for my little witches hats, I'm going to use my Waverly chalk paint and the color ink. And I'm going to give them one coat of this ink chalk paint, fronts, backs, and sides. So now, once my little ghosts here are dry, I want to draw my face on them. And I'm just going to take my pencil first and I'm just going to sketch out 2 ovals for the eyes and then a little oval for the mouth. Let me flip this around, make sure I get them all even. Sometimes when I'm doing upside down, it's a little harder to tell. Now you could grab a paintbrush and your chalk paint and do it, but I'm going to grab my apple barrel paint pen here. It's the color black ultra fine tip. Just gives me a little more control when drawing these eyes. So I'm just going to trace out right along my little pencil lines that I drew and fill them in. Easy peasy. The cute little ghost. Next, I'm going to grab my Waverly Antique Wax again, a little flat hard bristle brush here, and I'm just going to go through with my wax here, and I'm going to start filling in some little pumpkin ribs on my little pumpkins. Just lightly going out and then hitting the edges as well. Then whatever's left on my brush here, I'm just going to lightly dry brush right over the whole pumpkin. Just give it a little bit of that distressing rustic look. Flip it over and then repeat that on the back side. Now, for my other projects, I want to add a little distressing too, because I love my rustic, I love my grunge. If that's not so much your thing, you could absolutely just skip this stuff. Leave your little ghosts the clean white. It's really personal preference, but I like my good old grunge, so I'm just going to take actually a little softer bristle brush here and a little bit of my antique wax. I dab a lot of it off on my paper here and then just lightly go over, just highlight all those edges, all the little crinkles that are in that paper underneath, and just give this guy a little good antiquing. And I'm just going to continue to do that for all of my little ghosts. And then I'm going to go and do the exact same thing to my candy corn as well. And it really doesn't take much of this wax to do this. As you can see, just whatever wax was on my brush to start with, I did all 3 of my little ghosts with that same amount that was on my brush. But you could always add more or less depending on the level of distressing you like. And I really love the look that this wax gives these candy corn in particular. Now for my little witches hats, we're going to do a little different distressing. I'm going to grab my matte finish Mod Podge here, and I'm just going to lightly go over my little hats. Just a real light coat, and then I'm going to grab my ground cinnamon and give these a little sprinkle right into that Mod Podge, and I'm going to use my finger to just press that cinnamon down in that Mod Podge really good. Now, as I was doing these, I ended up adding a lot more cinnamon to my second and third one and liked it a lot better than I did the first one. So I went back and added a little bit more cinnamon to my first hat. And then I decided I liked it. I wanted to add a little bit of cinnamon to my pumpkins too. So I just put a really light amount of Mod Podge on them and a really light sprinkling of cinnamon. I didn't put near as much on them as I did the hats. I just wanted just a little bit, just to add that little bit of extra texture, extra grunging, and of course that delicious cinnamon smell. So here is what they look like once everything's dried and done. And now we're ready to add a little bit of embellishment. So let's start with the pumpkins. And I started with some of my dried Spanish moss here. And I'm just hot gluing a little bit of this Spanish moss right here underneath the stem of each of my pumpkins. Something about Spanish moss, it just adds such a warm, cozy, rustic feel, especially to fall projects. I mean, I like to use it year round, but I really think it adds something, just really adds that nice primitive touch to fall. Now next I grabbed these little tiny tags. These are like the size of price tags. I get these off Amazon and get like a whole giant bag of these for under $5. And I'm going to cut that little string off that came on them. And I'm going to just write a few sayings. I put Primroselaneprims Farm, established 1864. I just totally made that number up. Welcome fall and farm fresh pumpkins. Just any saying that you want to put on yours. And then I crumpled my little tags up and went in with my antique wax. Just went around the edges, just distressing these a little bit, and then lightly over the whole center to antique these a little bit. You could use your distress ink or whatever you like to use the distress. I just like the look that the antique wax gives, and it's always my one go-to. So once I get my tines done, I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue, and I'm going to tuck these right under that Spanish moss there, just enough so that hides that hole, but enough that you can still see what was wrote on the tag. Look how cute. Now I want to add a little hanger to the back of these. So if you don't want to use them as a bowl filler, you could say hang them on a little primitive pencil tree. So I'm just grabbing a little piece of thin piece of jute twine here, hot gluing it to the back, and then I just grabbed a little snippet of piece of that mailer that was left over, hot glued that right over the ends of the twine to reinforce it, cut off those extra edges. And now I have a little hanger, so if I want to hang these, I can. Maybe I want to hang them on a hutch knob or, like I said, on a little pencil tree. But either way, it gives you options. So you can just tuck that little twine hanger down if you want to put them in a dough bowl, or pop it up to hang them. So next I want to go in with my little witch hats, and I'm going to grab this black and cream gingham homespun, just a little strip here. I want to hot glue a strip of this fabric right around my hat, right above the brim. Just add a little hot glue in the back to tack that down. This is one of my favorite fabrics to use, especially at fall. I get this at Hobby Lobby. If you've watched my videos, you've seen me use the black and cream gingham quite a bit. It's one of my favorites. I just love the look of it. So I'm just going to keep gluing that down right around each of my little hats here. And I ended up adding a little dab of glue in the front too, just to make sure that fabric stayed put in the front. Now next I'm going to grab this little tiny strip of cheesecloth that I have here, and I'm going to tie a little knot right in the center here. Well, maybe if I can get a hold of the ends here. There we go. So I'm just going to tie a knot. Pull that tight. And I want to cut my two tails on the side. I want them to be roughly the same size. This is going to just make a little rustic small bow. So once I have that knot, I'm just going to flare my ends out. Like I said, you want to make sure they're roughly the same size. So if you need to trim them, you can. Flail them out and see, you've got a cute little tiny bow. Now I'm going to add a little bit more of Spanish moss right to the side of my little witch hat here before I put my bow on. And then I have this little corn husk. It had this little raffia type bow on top of it. It had these dried flowers. That poor thing's seen better days. So I wanted to pull these flowers off and reuse those, because dried flowers just adds a really pretty rustic touch to fall prim pieces, I think. So I'm going to take these and hot glue them right on top of that dried Spanish moss. And then I'm going to take and add my little cheesecloth bow right on top of that. Look how cute. And I'm just going to keep repeating that process for the rest of my little witch hats. And look how darling these are. I love the look the dried flowers really give these. So I'm going to add a hanger to the back of these as well, except instead of the little piece of mailer that I used on the first ones, I'm going to use a little piece of the fabric that I used on these hats to reinforce that. Trim those tails off, and now you have the option of hanging or popping in a dough bowl. Next, I'm going with the candy corn, and these are going to be done similar to the way I did the witches' hats. I'm going to start off with a little bit of dried Spanish moss, hot glue it right there, kind of where that orange and the yellow meet. Grab some more of these little dried flowers and hot glue those right on top of the Spanish moss, just like I did with the hats. And I went ahead and made some little of these little tags. This one says candy corn. I'm going to hot glue it right there beside my little dried flowers, add a little more glue on top, and I made another one of these little tiny bows, except I made it out of the black and cream gingham fabric instead of the cheesecloth. Glue that right on top, and there's our little candy corn. And I'll just repeat that process with the rest of my little candy corn. I absolutely love these little dried flowers. I get a lot of my dried flowers at Hobby Lobby. They have quite a selection, pretty inexpensive, and man, a pack of them goes a long way. But you can see on this one, I wrote trick or treat on the tag. So I have ones that say candy corn and I have ones that say trick or treat. Now for our little ghosts, I want to make another one of these little bows and I'm going to use the black and cream gingham to do so. Just tie a knot in it, make the two sides, the two tails relatively the same size and flare out those ends. Such an easy, simple way to just use a little piece of scrap fabric to make a little tiny bow. So now you could do this a couple different ways. So once you get your little bow made, you could either take and you could put this right straight down on the bottom here, make a little bow tie, which is adorable. But I'm going to actually add a little bit of the Spanish moss first and then hot glue my bow tie on top. I think both ways looked really cute. I couldn't decide which I ended up liking better. You'll have to leave me a comment. Know what you liked with the Spanish moss or preferred it without. Either way, I think it'll turn out cute no matter which way you go. And then the other thing, instead of doing the bow tie, is you could add it right here to the top like I did with this one, to the top of the head and make a little girly ghost. Look how cute. So I ended up doing two at the top and then one with the bow tie. And here's how all of these turned out. I absolutely love how these ended up turning out. They're so rustic, so prim, and they're made for just pennies. No one would ever know that these projects were originally Amazon mailers. So that is it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to drop down and hit that like button. And don't forget to drop me a comment. Let me know which of today's was your favorite. And if you think you might try one of these out of maybe some Amazon packages you have, be sure to follow me on social, subscribe if you haven't. Until next time, God bless and happy crafting.